Hi everyone, my name is Autumn Price and this is my presentation over Swift and SwiftUI and what I learned. In this assignment, I explored Apple's Swift programming language and its Swift UI framework, learning how they're used to create apps for iOS, macOS, and other Apple platforms. Even though I don't have an Apple device, I was able to complete everything using online tools and Apple's browser-based tutorials. Um, Swift is Apple's modern type-safe programming language built for performance and readability. It was first released in 2014 and quickly became the foundation for developing apps on iPhones, iPads, Macs, and even Apple Watches. What I really like about Swift is how clean and easy the syntax is. You can almost read it like regular English. For this project, I used swiftfiddle.com. Which is an online Swift editor to write and test my code directly from a browser. Okay, so we have the language highlights. Some of the most important features of Swift is its type inference, optionals, and protocol-oriented design. Type inference means Swift automatically figures out the type of data you're working with, which keeps the code simple and safe. Optionals protect against crashes by handling missing data, and protocols help organize reusable behaviors across different types of objects. Here's a quick example of the code I ran. When I print my name in the word Swift, the output reads, "Hi Autumn, you're learning Swift." It's small, but it really demonstrates how clean Swift's syntax is. Okay, so we have the optionals and the safe unwrapping. One of my favorite features in Swift is the use of optionals. So optionals handle situations where a value might not exist. Instead of crashing, Swift asks you to safely unwrap that value first. In my example, I created an optional nickname and used an if let statement to safely assess it. The console output showed your nickname is AP. Um, this was really easy way to understand how Swift prevents common errors and keeps programs stable. Okay, so now we have structs and protocols. Next, I learned about structs and protocols, two core ideas in Swift's design. Protocols define the blueprint for how an object should behave, and structs are simple data structures that store information. So I created a sticker struct with a name and price that conform to a purchasable protocol. Purchasable, sorry. I'm reading my script, so excuse me. So it conformed to a purchasable protocol. And when I ran the code, the console printed sticker, Luna's Meadow, $3. It's such a short piece of code, but it shows how Swift encourages reusable organized logic. So here I have my Swift UI overview. After understanding the language, I moved on to Swift UI, which is Apple's modern framework for building interfaces. Swift UI is declarative, meaning instead of writing step-by-step instructions, you simply describe what you want the UI to look like. Swift UI automatically updates the layout whenever data changes. It uses simple building blocks called views, like text, image, and button, to build screens that can adapt across devices. I studied Apple's SwiftUI tutorials directly from their website, which show both the code and a live preview side by side. Okay, so here are my layout with stacks and modifiers. So SwiftUI organizes elements using stacks. So there's vertical stacks, horizontal stacks, and overlapping stacks. For example, I use a V-stack to display the title Luna's Meadow with a tagline below it. Each element can be customized using modifiers like font, title, or padding. I love how much this reminds me of working with CSS. It's clean, layered, and visually intuitive. It only takes a few lines of code to style and align everything perfectly. Here we have state and data flow. So SwiftUI also handles dynamic content using a property wrapper called @state. Um, well, I'm reading it as @state. And this tells SwiftUI that the value can change and that the view should update automatically when it does. In one example, there was a counter app. Every time you press the increase button, the text showing the count updated in real time. Even though I couldn't run it on my computer through the Swift Playground or Swift Fiddle, sorry. um, I followed along with Apple's online tutorial to understand how SwiftUI links data visual and visuals seamlessly. Okay, now listen navigation. SwiftUI makes navigation and data presentation incredibly easy. Using a list and navigation stack, you can display a scrollable list of items, and each one automatically links to a detailed view. The tutorial example showed a list of plants, lavender, sage, and rosemary, and tapping one opened a new page with more details. What impressed me was that all of this worked with only a few lines of code, and SwiftUI even handles the back button and transitions automatically. Okay, drawing and animation. SwiftUI uses or I'm sorry, I'm sorry, excuse me. SwiftUI also supports shapes, gradients, and animations in a very simple way. You can use shapes like circles or rectangles and apply animation modifiers such as with animation. One of the examples I studied created a pulsing purple circle, kind of like a breathing animation. I love how SwiftUI lets you create expressive motion-based designs without needing any external animation software. It's all built right into the language. So my code practice results, all of the Swift logic I wrote and tested was done in Swift Fiddle, as I mentioned before. The console output confirmed that my syntax was correct and I could see my results instantly. This helped me reinforce the difference between Swift's logic layer and Swift's UI visual layer. Some of the example outputs were hello Swift World, your nickname is AP, and sticker colon Luna's Meadow, $3. It gave me a real sense of progress when even though I wasn't using a Mac. Okay, so what I learned. Overall, this project taught me that programming and design can go hand in hand. Swift structure encourages clarity and intention with which aligns perfectly with how I approach creative design projects. I also learned how to adapt using online compilers and browser-based tutorials to work around hardware limitations. This assignment helped me see how logic, structure, and design thinking all connect to create interactive, user-focused experiences. Okay, so the tools I use Swift Fiddle, obviously, I mentioned that before, to run all of my Swift code examples, and I followed Apple's Swift UI tutorials to understand the UI concepts and design systems. Um, for my references, the resources I used included Apple's official documentation. Um, I also used a stock image from Pexels titled "A Person Programming" by Mikhail Nilov for the required image reference. These materials provided the foundation for both my code and the visuals in this presentation. Um, Okay, thank you for listening to my presentation. I think even without access to the Apple hardware, I discovered that learning Swift is really about logic, structure, and creativity. It doesn't have anything to do with the device you code on. Although I do feel like I would have a much better experience if there was a way for me to do it all with the Swift Fiddle. That would be nice, but we'll get there. Um, but this experience taught me how to problem solve and adapt my learning environment. So thank you for watching.